no one gets out scot-free. There's going to be wear and tear. Maybe his body's just starting to feel it. You can see from the way he fights, he's not just a raw power machine like that.
No, there's definitely a boxing brain there.
Definitely a boxing brain in there. They say it's hard to get out of bed when you've got silk pyjamas. It's now or never for him to change his life forever.
Hello and welcome back to Sunsport Split Decision, your ringside seat to everything happening in the world of boxing. I'm Jack Figg, and don't adjust your screens. Wally hasn't grown hair a few inches and looks overnight. We're delighted to be joined by British middleweight Brad Pauls. On today's show, we'll look back at Josh Taylor's loss to Ekow Essuman and where that leaves both men. And Brad will tell us all about his anticipated return to the ring on Saturday. And we're going to start in Glasgow, where Josh Taylor was beaten on points by Ekow Essuman. Brad, you obviously watched the fight. Was it a surprise to you? Because on last week's show, we spoke about it might come down to how much desire Josh has got left in his career. Obviously, he's achieved so much. And we said that the engine of Ekow, he's not called that for no reason, would play a big factor. And we saw Josh start well and Ekow come on strong. Is that how you thought beforehand the fight might have gone?
I did have Josh Taylor to win the fight on my bets, but it's all down to the variables of what Josh Taylor had left and how much he wants it, like you said. I think they didn't pick an easy comeback fight for Josh, who hasn't looked well in his last few performances. Like you said, they call him the engine for a reason, and he's a fully fledged welterweight, so you can see the weight of his punches in there, and with Josh stepping up to welterweight. Maybe the desire wasn't there, or maybe his best days are behind him. He's 34, I believe. So, yeah, the underdog won. It was nice to see someone like Ekow finally have his flowers.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can take up losing the bet with Josh. I certainly won't be. But for Josh, he said after the fight that he put a lot of it down to inactivity and wants to get back in the gym. He says that's a mistake he's made over the last couple of years, not getting back to the gym quick enough. From what you saw in the ring and from a fighter's perspective, what do you think he does next?
I think he stays at welterweight. I think he has a slightly easier fight to really see what he has left, but only Josh would know what he's been living like outside of the training camps. And if you don't live the life, that will take its toll on you in the ring. And with the lighter weights, around the age of 34 is roughly when you start to tone down a little bit. So it's how much that he wants it. He's probably made a few quid in his life. So it's what does he really want to do it for? He's been undisputed champion. So what else could he do? It's down to him.
Yeah, and only, as you say, only the fighter will know. But when you are in those situations when the going's got tough, and you've got one guy in Ekow who hasn't achieved quite as much as what Josh has got, and as you say, Josh has achieved it all, winning undisputed titles. Do you think it comes down to that a little bit on who wants it more? And do you think Josh just couldn't quite find it like he probably would have earlier in his career?
Yeah, I think Josh Taylor 5 years ago would have won that fight. But they say it's hard to get out of bed when you've got silk pyjamas. And with that level of accomplishment from Josh, when you have to really dig deep and trying to change your life, that's more for someone like Ekow, who hasn't done it, who's took the hard fights as the away fighter. And he has an opportunity at 36, you forget how old he is, and it's now or never for him to change his life forever. So if it come down to hunger, you'd give it to Ekow because it's his chance to change his life.
Was there enough in the performance? Because as we said, Josh did start well and faded towards the end. Was there enough in there for you to say if he does fight again, you'd be happy with that?
Yeah, I don't think he looked particularly shot, to say. I think he looked less effective. Is it the new weight, or was Ekow just a bad opponent for him? I think you'd need another fight to really see what he has left. Similar sort of level fight, and then yeah, you'll be able to tell from that what he has left in the tank.
Yeah, and finally, before we get on to Ekow, I think Josh does deserve credit for the fact that he did take a tough fight like that. He could have probably fought on an undercard somewhere and sort of slotted in, but he did take a tough fight in Ekow, so that should be commended.
Yeah, he's boxed at the absolute highest level, and Ekow's one of these opponents where he took the fights in the away corner and always ends up winning, usually. So they've definitely picked a hard fight. Maybe they underestimated him slightly. He's not a massive name, Ekow. He is now, but yeah, you've got to give him credit for taking the tougher fight when he could have had easier ones.
From a fighter's perspective, when you are fighting someone that isn't of the level you've had before, can it be sometimes easy to cut corners in the gym, or just switch off just that little bit because you do, as you say, underestimate an opponent?
Yeah, it's a bit of complacency, and it just depends on the fighter. Some people will always prepare diligently. Josh, you don't know what happened inside his camp, and you don't know the effects of a long career has had on him. Sometimes it might not be his dedication and his motivation, it might be the wear and tear of a long career.
Because he did have some really tough fights. I mean, he was undisputed after 18 fights, had some really grueling fights, Regis Prograis. The cattle fights were both tough as well, so maybe that has also taken its toll.
It's going to take its toll, and he's 34. I imagine he's boxed pretty much his whole life, and no one gets out scot-free. There's going to be wear and tear. Maybe his body's just starting to feel it. Yeah,
and for Ekow, as you say, I mean, he at 36, he seems to be getting better and better. What would you like to see him do next? Because the world titles at the moment are owned by Jerron Ennis, Brian Norman, and Mario Barrios, who's bizarrely about to fight Manny Pacquiao. So, you know, it's tough to get a world title shot. Would you like to see him push for that, or maybe get another big name like Josh Taylor?
I think one more big name like Josh Taylor. He doesn't have a lot of time, Ekow, and Father Time waits for no man. He is 36. Getting one more big name, maybe domestic, and then push him on for a world title shot, 'cause he doesn't have a lot of time. Wouldn't mind him against someone like Mario Barrios, someone like that would be a great fight. And there's a lot of options at welterweight, so it's a good opportunity.
We also said last week how Ekow might have slotted in the Who Needs Him club in terms of his high risk with not much reward. Do you think a win against Taylor helps him because you can fight the guy that beat Taylor, or would that reinforce that? It's like, you know, he's clearly a risk. Let's swerve him.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think he has a belt now and he has a ranking, so it's how much the promoter wants to invest in him. If they want to invest and get him another fight, that can push him up the rankings into a mandatory. I think he's got quite a fan-friendly style, so the promoters will be quick to work with him and invest in him. So I think people want to see him again. I think he'll get another opportunity and, hopefully a world title shot.
And on the undercard, Moses Itauma with another sensational knockout of Mike Balogun. He goes into the ring with so much expectation already after, I think that was his 13th fight. People were talking, there was always that talk about whether he would beat Mike Tyson's record of becoming champion age 20, and that, you know, you don't get more pressure than that. You know, how impressed have you been with the fact that he goes in there, does his job, and his attitude is right, on to the next one?
Yeah, massively impressed. It's really exciting to watch. I think every now and then you get these freakish sort of talents, and where he's so young and he's not nearly how good he's going to be, it's exciting to watch. And you can see from the way he fights, he's not just a raw power machine like that.
No, there's definitely a boxing brain there.
Definitely a boxing brain in there, and that will last him his whole career. His timing is ridiculously good. His distance control is ridiculously good, and that's how he can get these knockouts, is through the natural power, the great timing, and the great measure of distance. So it's going to be exciting.
There is definitely a gap in the market for the next heavyweight star, especially in Britain, with, you know, Tyson and AJ potentially retiring. So if you were a betting man, you'd probably put your money on him being the man to take that.
Yeah, next gen. And it's mad to think, as a heavyweight, he could box until 35. So that's another 15 years of Moses Itauma. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out over the next 15 years. But yeah, money's on him to take the lead from AJ and Fury.
Right, now we'll turn our attention to the man in the hot seat, Brad Pauls. Brad, you're back out after, is it 6 months out the ring?
Yep.
So you must be raring to go and can't wait.
I cannot wait to get back in there. Boxed in December, and I'll be fighting May the 31st. So it's a long time out the ring. I've stayed in the gym, I've stayed active, but for one reason or another, I haven't had a fight date. But it's nice to finally get one and a chance to progress and move my career on.
You've had one of the most sort of fan-friendly, enjoyable careers on TV. Great fights with Nathan Heaney, another great fight with Denzel Bentley that didn't go your way. So were you hoping to push on after those, but for whatever reason it just didn't happen?
Yeah, that's it. I would have liked to have got back on a Queensberry show and got back to winning ways and build myself towards the next title. But boxing's funny sometimes. It doesn't always pan out how you want. So I've had to wait on the sideline for 6 months through no fault of my own. It's no choice of mine. And do what I've had to do to get me back to winning ways, to get me back towards the titles that I had last year.
Was it a case of making the decision of, do I sit out and wait for another chance with the big promoters on TV, or do I just take a fight to keep busy? Did that ever go through your mind, or was it always to get back out?
I'd say the 6 months out was no choice of mine. I'd prefer to have boxed small hall or on TV, but with the contracts, you're sort of tied into one place, and I was sort of stuck for a little bit. There was no shows to put me on, I don't think, so I had to wait. But I don't mind going back to small hall. It's what built me to this position in the first place, and I'll do whatever it takes to get me back to where I was. And for me to lobby for a British title, I have to be coming off of a win. So we go get that win this week, and I'd love my British title back.
Yeah, and you talk about that's where you made your name. You were sponsored by was it Torquay Airport that you're sponsored by, so your fans could fly over, and that's the great stories that we love in British boxing.
Yeah, I'm very well supported in Cornwall. Pretty much all my sponsors are Cornish, like you said, the airport, and yeah, the whole of Cornwall really gets behind me, and I feel like I've got the whole county representing every time I fight. So yeah, I'm lucky. And
if I'm right in saying you can't actually fight in Torquay because they don't have a neurological ward.
Yeah.
So, how has that been sort of navigating that through your career?
It's difficult. It would have been great if we could box in Cornwall. There hasn't been a show there since the early 90s. And it's all through health and safety reasons. There's not a neurological...
It's a bit of a tongue twister.
There's a bit of a tongue twister, that one. It doesn't have the right facilities to hold a show there. The closest we can get is Devon, and that's where I'm fighting this week. So, yeah, if not, we're going to fight in London in the big arenas, so it's all right.
And we spoke earlier about, Josh Taylor and how much desire he has. When you haven't got a fight booked, or you have to go and take a step back to the small halls, can it be hard to focus in training if you haven't got a fight, but it's a slightly smaller arena? Is it hard to, keep the same focus?
Yeah, a little bit. It's a different feel fighting on small hall. Obviously, you're your own promoter all of a sudden. It's up to you to sell all the tickets and promote yourself. And boxing's a tricky one. You can get complacent, but you'll get found out. I've got a tough 8-round contest on Saturday, and if I don't get through that, I don't get the bigger fights that I want. So if you want this, you have to do this. And yeah, the motivation's always high for me, but I would prefer to go back on the TV shows. It's better for everyone, and everyone can watch in Cornwall. So
that is the bit I suppose people don't see about. I mean, a lot of people will just assume boxers are all millionaires and they just turn up and fight, but you've got to do the groundwork, selling the tickets, getting yourself out there. Is that the bit that A, fans don't recognise, and B, that is actually probably trickier than getting in and training and fighting?
Yeah, it's a whole different job. When you turn pro, you just want to fight, but all of a sudden you have to learn about marketing, advertising, building your brand, and being selling tickets. So it's something you have to do and you have to learn. And it will help me get to where I want to get to in the future. So
you were in the discussions to potentially fight Janabek, the WBO middleweight champion. So how hard is it also to not lose hope when you're potentially going to fight for a world title, then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, it doesn't pan out and you don't know what your next fight is?
It's snakes and ladders in boxing. You're one win away from being the guy who has all the opportunity, and you're one loss away from being nobody who's got to go back to small hall and work your way up. But that's just part of the job, and I can't hate on small hall so much. It got me all the titles I've ever had. So one step back for two steps forward, in my opinion.
And you're boxing at the Torquay Riviera International Centre. Are you hoping to pull in some of the locals, maybe some of the Zumba mums?
Yeah, we've got a few coming down. We've got about 150 coming up from Torquay. And it's a stacked card, to be fair. There's quite a few 8-rounders on it. And the support's been good, considering it was only 5 weeks' notice for selling the tickets. So yeah, it's not Wembley Arena. It's not the big shows in Birmingham, but it's what I've got to do to get to where I want.
And even when you are fighting on those big shows, there's great stories about how Josh Taylor was, even for world title fights, driving around with his dad, hand giving out the tickets. You never want to lose that, do you?
No, that's it. It keeps you connected to everyone who supports you, and I'll probably be selling tickets on the day of my fight on Saturday, and it's just how it goes. But it's all part of the process. I've done small hall for 7-8 years, and that built me to get me prepared for the big TV fights, and it all comes together. And it's good I can get a fight close to home so everyone can come support, and it's easy for them.
Now, in an ideal world, obviously you stay active for the next 12 months or so. Do you have a plan with the team, who you'd want to fight, what you'd want to fight for, like a little plan? Yeah, a little plan. It's nothing personal. I don't particularly call people's names out. It's never like that, but I would love my British title back, and that is currently held by Kieran Conway. Whether he vacates or there's a lot of moving parts in boxing, mandatories and other things, but I'd love to get my British title back. You mentioned Conway there. There was rumblings about him maybe stepping up to European, and George Liddard fighting for the British title. He's another one, he's got a great set of fans, West Ham fan. You versus Liddard, a good fight?
Brilliant fight. One I'd happily take. And I think these domestic fights will do really well. I've sparred with Liddard before. I know the styles will gel well to make a good fight, but on a mission to get my British title back, and if he's in the way, then that's what's happening.
And you sparred Denzel Bentley as well. So what's that like as well, when you know a guy, you've been in the gym with him, you spent time with him, and then you have to go and fight him? Do you have to completely strip it away? Do you remember what happened in the gym?
A little bit. You can take points from it. I don't think it relates exactly to how they fight. Some people are working on stuff in sparring, they don't give it 100% like they would in a fight. Me personally, I always don't spar that well, fight a lot better.
Just in case.
Yeah, it's just how it goes. But you can get a sort of feel of how the fight might pan out from the sparring, and I sort of know that with me and Liddard, it would gel well for a good fight.
Yeah, and you've had some great fights under Frank Warren. He's obviously got a big show, a big schedule of shows coming up with The Zone. Have you been in contact with the Warrens to potentially get on one of them? I've
been pestering them a little bit on social media. There's a show in Bournemouth on the 26th of July, and it's close-ish to Cornwall, so I'd love to get on that. And I think it'd be a great opportunity to stack the card out, and I'll sell a load of tickets. So let's see what he says.
Brad, thanks for coming on. Absolutely loved your insight. All the best of luck on Saturday. You must be raring to go.
Thanks for having me. Another win for the Nuki Bomb, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe Wally's out of a job now. Right, that's it for this week's Split Decision. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give the video a like and subscribe to Sun Sports YouTube channel so you never miss a round. We'll catch you next time.